Okay, so we canceled the official meeting associated with this for lack of a quorum, but we're just going to proceed as we're going to anyway and do the department reports as planned. I appreciate everybody preparing these, all great materials as usual. Just as a reminder, what we've done is split up the actual presentation. So each group will do a report every quarter, but only half, plus a few exceptions, will present on a quarterly basis. So we'll go through our list. We're going to listen to Assessor's Office today, EMS, Emergency Management, Finance, Fire Marshal, Land Use, Parks and Rec, Police, Public Works, and Town Clerk. So thank you. And I think for Post 50th, is Joe here yet? He said he was going to be a little bit late, so that's fine. We will start with the Assessor's Office. Mr. Homeke.
Good morning, John and Marcy. How are you?
Good morning.
Fantastic.
Good. The grand list is moving along. The tax base is healthy again. The land use departments of the building and planning offices, they've again given us about 350 parcels to identify, appraise, inspect. So that'll complement the grand list. Focusing on the 7 bullets on my memo, and I'll try to be as brief as needed. The Western Council of Governments with Fairfield County, other communities, are enhancing our software systems, and so it's sort of a challenge. We've released our appraisal system and looking at an artificial intelligence confidence building type degree. All the towns are involved with this. It's something we've been doing for over 20 years, releasing the Excel spreadsheets of about 26 different characteristics of each and every property. The overall objective would be to give more credibility to the 5-year revaluation process, statistically speaking, in concert with the state of Connecticut. So I just referenced that as it's a credibility check that all Fairfield County is going to be looking at.
We discussed that at the Westcog meeting briefly last week. I think it's pretty compelling, actually, that you could use AI as a tool to assist you with valuations. What's your quick read on the promise of that?
I think it's going to be win-win. It just gives, if we're doing a good job, it just gives us more statistics to show the public on the credibility of the process of this 5-year reval. So property tax are significant, and people want to know a little more detail about them. It just complements the overall package.
Are they using things like drones? Is that like how?
No, it's beyond that. It's really using more of a social, cultural media, all the integrity, the complexions of the community that would come into an artificial intelligence statistical analysis. Right now, we have to maintain basic standards by the Office of Policy and Management.
Mm-hmm.
This goes one step a little bit further than what the state and the international assessors require us to do to satisfy the 5-year reval cycle. So more to come on that.
Okay, great.
The other highlights are the state of Connecticut did enhance the service-connected permanent and total disability ratings for veterans. If it's service-related and you're a veteran with a DD-214 honorable discharge papers, the dwelling will potentially be exempt from the 10-124 grand list. We have more data that we'll put on our website about this. We have 2 applicants already for October 1, 24. It's not like New London or Groton, Connecticut, where they have a lot of veterans that are disabled that might be on their tax rolls and tax grand list. So it's a nominal fiscal note, but it's a compliment to the veterans that are disabled.
Yeah, and so, because I read through your list here, or the description, it's just for the dwelling, it's not for the land.
That's correct.
So they would still continue to pay property taxes on
Yes,
the land.
yes. And if we have disabled veterans that aren't aware of this program, a year or 2 from now, they could go back, we could do a 3-year retroactive, starting on October 1 of 24.
Okay. And then what about the exemptions that are available for folks who have less than 100% disability, or what, because it was talking a little bit about that in this write-up here. What about all that?
It's a 3 or 4 page write-up that we have available for the public. There's a variety of exemptions that we have. The primary one is just the veterans in general. It's a nominal assessment reduction, maybe $20 or $30 off the basic for all veterans in town. But if there's any disability or any percentages We ask them to call the office. It depends on the specific.
Oh, so there's a formula that would give them something?
Yes, a variety of different type of exemptions.
And none of that's changed with the recent
No.
legislation?
No,
Okay,
that's the only changes.
all right, great.
And the only other third thing is that the motor vehicle taxation process has changed dramatically. I made a copy of a report that I had done in 1993, where we started using ad valorem market value on cars. Right now, it's going to be changed to using the MSRP trade value, and there's 3 or 4 pages that that I copied for this. It's all triggered based on a changeover from what we were using for the NADA market values to an assessment changes with the MSRP value times the depreciation schedule. Again, we're told it's not going to be a big fiscal note issue on us, but typically it would challenge the market value through the Board of Assessment Appeals, and twice a year. This really goes right down to the MSRP value with the depreciation format going out about 10 years.
Okay. I just wonder if that's really true. I mean, because if you look at the schedule, what it basically does is has a 5% depreciation off MSRP for every year, right?
Right.
So my experience with, you buy a brand new car, the depreciation from purchase through year 1 is a lot more than 5%. So in other words, it drops off precipitously and maybe flattens out like that. So this idea that somehow if we just have a 5% annual depreciation is going to reduce taxes on motor vehicles in this town, I'd be very surprised if that's the case. Is that really true?
We're going to wait and see how this pans out. Like I said, the trigger on this is that the NADA pricing guides were purchased by J.D. Power and then Price Digest, 3 different publications, where it would cost us, meaning the state Connecticut assessors, about $40,000 a year in a contract. That went up to $250,000 because the pricing guides just didn't want to cooperate with 169 towns in Connecticut. That triggered this concept with a lot of other. And I think the fiscal note hopefully will be nominal, but it's offset with the bulk of our tax base being residential property.
Yeah, I just think people shouldn't be surprised. I mean, if you buy a $100,000 car, to keep the math simple, 2 years later, the assessed value is $90,000, right? Or the appraised value is $90,000. 2 years later, I assure you that $100,000 car will not sell for $90,000, right? So I think there's going to be a boost in taxes for that. As we get data on that, I'd appreciate taking another look at that.
Especially when I get the grant list done in January, February.
Not a big deal, to your point, that most of the taxes are raised through residential, not vehicle taxes. But let's not let anybody be surprised by that. So.
Agreed.
Okay, Marcy, you have any questions for Tony?
No, thanks.
Let me see. That was it for me. Thank you, sir. Okay. Joe, we will wait on emergency management. Mark.
Morning, everybody.
Morning.
Just wanted to bring 3 things to your attention. One was the flooding we had in August. Darien was lucky that it hit further away from us, but we did have a half a dozen homes and businesses that were severely affected, and they put claims into FEMA, and that triggers the possibility of hazard mitigation grants in the future based on that storm. The next thing is that the state of Connecticut has purchased software. I was trained on it this past quarter, and I am asking that some of our other personnel and deputy also get trained in the crisis track software, because that's how FEMA and the state of Connecticut is going to do reimbursements from now on out. So everything we input will have to be through crisis track, and it'll track damages and help with all the pre-disaster and post-disaster assessments and reimbursements. So it is a big deal for all the towns. There was one more thing. Oh, the Dewberry Associates, the applications for grants that have gone in now for the second time on the annual grants for FEMA. We were told recently that they are under further review, which is actually a good process, that they are further along, because last time they died before they even got to that step. So we are hopeful that we'll see some homes elevated or acquired. and I can't give you addresses, so that's why I'm
No,
not being
okay.
specific.
So for the half dozen homes and businesses that were affected in that storm, is the funding to help them going to come from the feds because there was a presidential
Yes.
disaster declaration, and that declaration applied to us or covered
It-
these properties?
It did, and due to the south hurricanes, pretty much all the FEMA folks and SBA folks that were local have been redeployed down south. But it's still in process, and people can put in a claim either by calling or by going online.
Okay.
And
your office?
the numbers, they tally back the numbers and they give us these numbers, but they don't really reflect anything because without the information and we know what address it's tied to, it's not helpful in my eyes. I can't really give you a
And these
report
folks
that
can
makes
call
sense.
you for guidance on kind of what to do next?
Absolutely.
Okay. And then the software, so that's for use by town employees, and it's any property that's been affected by storms, whether it's a residence, somebody's had an insurance claim, any of those sorts of things, that history and that data is all collected in this software. Because I
Yes.
remember before when there was an issue about some houses being bought out where we pay 25%, like the Crimmins Road property.
Sure.
Will this system actually collect and hold historical claims data and all that?
That's the hope.
That's how.
That their long-term goal is that, but right now their short-term goal is trying to make it so that people can self-report for private, and then public can use this portal, if you will, for all the damage that's done to infrastructure or town properties.
And then would it allow somebody also to track, for example, if they, if they have a claim or like some of these properties that are, have claims with the government, would they be able to kind of track the status of that? Is it informative?
That I don't know.
Okay.
It didn't appear to be that, but it's more about collecting the data in the format that FEMA wants it. So basically, this company sat down with FEMA and wrote software to get to the bottom of how they operate so that it really just makes it easier for FEMA to go through the process.
Do you think it would also help with resale in the case if somebody wanted to purchase a property and wanted to see the history on it to ensure that it probably?
I don't think so.
No?
It's still a government file and it's
Okay.
going to be secured, but
Like, I don't know if real estate agents had access to it, where they'd be able to say, oh, this is
Yeah,
the property.
I don't think so. That's one of the reasons why we can't use, when we're talking about grants on houses and things like that, we're not allowed to use our addresses.
Right.
Any message you want to convey for the public? I mean, we've got good weather right now, but that changes.
Well, we're into a drought now, so
We are.
as someone who's aware of drought conditions, we're already starting to see a uptick in wildfires in the state of Connecticut and elsewhere in this region, New Jersey as well. Thankfully, it hasn't happened here yet, but knock on some wood, and hopefully it won't. But
Nice weather, but we need some rain.
we
Okay, Mark.
definitely need rain.
Terrific, thank you.
Thanks, Mark.
Okay, Jennifer, Finance Department.
Good morning. Three things that I want to highlight are areas for the upcoming months. The main area we're focusing on is fraud protection. We're making it a priority to work towards e-payables. We have to update about 170 legacy vendors who have been in the system for decades, and we don't have complete information on them. Taxpayer ID, that sort of thing. We need that in order to begin moving over to e-payables and paying electronically as much as possible. We have a demo, I think, next week with Chase. They have a service where if we're notified by someone, supposedly a vendor, that their ACH instructions have changed, we can run them through this Chase system and it'll verify them, all in an attempt to reduce fraud. There's a lot of fraud with people pretending to be a vendor, changing ACH instructions. And we just got hit with a $300,000 check that was caught in positive pay that was supposed to be going to our health insurance company that was presented with a different payee. So it was caught in positive pay and we could decline payment and then change our payment method with the health insurance company. But the more that we can switch over to the e-payables, the less check fraud exposure that we'll have. So that's a focus.
What sort of training do you do with the team in the department in terms of awareness, procedures, verification procedures, checking things like that. Is that part of your program?
It hasn't been, and what we're doing is I have our AP people working. I've given them a couple of draft example procedures for ACH verification. Criminals have gotten more sophisticated on that, so even the standard call the company doesn't work. So with this demo verified by ACH, I think it costs $0.25 per verification. I think that's the direction that we want to go for verifying all the ACHs rather than trying to call the company and perhaps getting a bogus phone number or a rerouted phone number, something like that. So we haven't had a formal policy on that procedure, so we're writing that up and hoping to incorporate the e-payables and ACH verification.
Okay, I'd be interested just going forward about not just those kinds of processes, but sort of team awareness on that so that they know what to do and what to look for and can serve as eyes and ears on things like that. In my experience, the biggest source of failure is always human. It's never the system, so thank you for that. Anyway, please.
The other one that I wanted to highlight is bottom of page 1, the results of fiscal '24. We're going to add about $2.6 million to fund balance. That'll bring us up to just under $33.5 million, which is 19.27% of our fiscal '25 budget. The Board of Finance guideline remains at 12%. Most of that surplus is on the revenue side. We were actually about $5.3 million better than budget on the revenue side, offset by using about $3.8 million of fund balance for some special appropriations. And the majority of that revenue surplus, just over $3 million, was a result of investment income. And then fiscal year to date, everything is tracking as expected. No surprises yet this year.
Any lessons from any of this as we start our budget process in the coming weeks?
I think that we don't want to rely on investment income because that has proven to be volatile, both up and potentially down. And
We've got our wizard treasure. What do you, wait. I see you lurking over there.
So tell her the number you want.
All right. So John, can we put you down for 10 million this year?
Sorry about that.
Well, all right. So there's the regular part, then there's the treasurer wand, right?
She's like a little fairy godmother over there.
I think the other focus area, there's two focus areas. Debt service we know is going up as we've been bringing on HHR and Great Island debt. The other one that we need to watch is our medical insurance. Take a look at what we can do to control costs there so it doesn't start crowding out other places that we would like to spend money.
And we've talked about kind of health insurance in one of our initiatives to take a look at that this year. Is there any other area that's a significant spend that you'd like to do a vendor strategy review or anything like that?
Not that comes to mind,
Okay.
and I think time and resources are a little limited this year, so I think medical insurance is a big number that's been going up faster than anything else, so I think that should
We'll
be a
just
focus
focus on
this
that.
year and then
Okay.
perhaps some more next year.
Well, we'll be talking a lot about budgets in the coming weeks, and I know it can be a painful process, but I appreciate everybody's attention on that, and let's turn in our usual thorough budgets that are ready to go for all the reviews. So thank you for that. Any questions? You got any?
No, thanks,
All right.
Jen.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Jennifer. Okay, next up, Mr. Bush, Fire Marshal.
Morning.
Good morning, sir.
All right, couple of things. The elementary school projects, the HHR project, continue to move along. We were busy there this summer ensuring that everything was going to be safe for school to open because of exits being relocated, things that were being basically cut off. So, reconfiguring of exits, and they're having to reconfigure their fire drills, how they were going to exit out of certain areas of buildings and stuff. Now working with them on temporary heating plans for the winter.
Can you give me a sense of kind of what types of inspections that you would do? I thought that was interesting because you're having to take a fresh look at.
So it's basically changing in the egress plans for the schools because some of the exits that had been there were cut off because of new construction, so that we had to work with them to ensure that proper travel distance was there, that we weren't exceeding travel distances and common paths of travel, so that where they were exiting to was going to be a safe area, and how they were exiting out of the building was still within the, like at Henley and Royal, we lost one of the original staircases in the building as the means of egress. So we had to ensure that, explain to them that we don't want people to come from the second floor into the first floor and then leave the building through the first floor, because once you enter a stairway, you're in a protected area. So it's designed to protect you until you leave the building. So we don't want them going into the stairway that no longer takes them out of the building. We want them to use the original stairway that was there and the other alternate stairways that have been in the buildings since other additions.
Okay, got it.
So, foundations have been done, steel is being put up.
They're very
The project
busy.
is moving along.
Yep.
Was there a quick training program for the teachers and the staff and the students and?
Yeah, and we've been working with them, we've been going to their fire drills,
Okay.
and helping them wherever they need help. And
Okay.
downtown, obviously, they did a big concrete pour Friday. They have another large concrete pour planned for Thursday, about half the amount of concrete that they poured on
Yeah, I
Friday.
saw the note on that today.
Over in the Heights, the Heights Crossing project continues to move along. They're getting apartments ready to be used for people to see what they're gonna look like, what they wanna rent, models. They're working on the retail spaces, their Goddard School, and over at federal property, they're still filling tenant spaces there. And then we have the other projects, BMW, the addition, Roots Ocean Prime Restaurant, where the melting pot was, making slow progress, but they're getting there. And then moving forward, Centric Avenue, they've submitted their plans for foundation. So we'll be looking for demolition over there soon, or demolition is done there. So construction will start soon. And we had two big hoarding projects, cases that we've been on for probably over 6 months. Just very delicate situations with both people in the residences. Hoarding's an illness, and it takes a lot for myself and Ally or Cynthia from Human Services to engage with the person and gain their trust so that we can get them to understand what they need to do and how we can get things cleaned up. But we've been very successful with both these cases and in prior cases. Other than that, I will be happy to answer any questions you may have.
How's your inspection caseload? Are you guys holding up in terms of your capacity to deliver and all this? It's a lot.
So overall inspections of the existing properties, we're in way better shape than we have been for a number of years.
Yep.
We're still lagging behind.
But it's a dramatic improvement. I mean, you
Yes,
guys
it's a
really-
dramatic improvement. And the inspection load continues to grow with all the new developments. All of the apartments, as they're built, they require annual inspections. Not just the hallway, but physically the apartment itself. We have to make sure
Because to
that,
be clear, it's not just the construction inspections. Once they're in
It
place,
is,
they
yes.
still have
We-
an annual.
we own the buildings for the life of the building.
Yeah.
We're required to inspect, and apartments are required to be inspected annually. So we have to go in, ensure that the smoke detection works, the doors to the corridors close and latch properly. There's no obvious hoarding conditions. They can get to rescue windows.
Okay. Given all the new developments in town, are you seeing any emerging sort of fire safety capacity issues? In other words, do we have enough response capacity to deal with?
We are very fortunate. The volunteer ranks in town are very strong. It just continues to amaze me,
Yeah.
being in the fire service in this town for 40-plus years, of the volunteers that just continue to want to be involved, people that want to be involved in the volunteer fire service.
It is amazing. I mean, and it's not just fire, it's everything else. I mean, I'm blown away every day by what I see people do, and we thank you for that. Later on, you talked about, began work on a new software for inspections, treatments, and reporting. What about, is that helping, or where are you?
So it is, we are still working with the vendor. They are taking data, they're gonna have to take historical data. There's a lot of build-out work that needs to be done, and we continue to work with them in sections of the program at a time. At the end of the day, when we go live, this will also benefit the fire departments they'll be able to see live data, they'll be able to use it for their personnel, their training. So we'll be engaging them with training aspects and how to do things.
Okay. And thank you for the fire drill we had here at Town Hall the other day. Was there good behavior on the fire drill?
And as I said, if it's a crappy, rainy, cold day and the fire alarm goes off, do not look to me that it may be a fire drill, because I don't want to do that to anybody on a cruddy day.
All right, well, that was good safety. I appreciated doing all that. Any other questions for the body?
No, thanks.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks.
Joe, you're up.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Apologize for being late.
Not to worry.
Just quickly to add to my report, we held a donor appreciation event. John, thank you so much for coming and stopping by.
I have to say, just seeing not just the young people who were there, but the donors and the adults who support the program, either by volunteering their time or pulling out their checkbook, it was really terrific. And again, for people watching, I really appreciate that. It's a great sort of symbiotic relationship where you have adults who are doing their part and their share, with these young people doing their part and their share. It's really a great combination.
Yeah, we're extremely fortunate, and the support from the town and the community. We had our haunted house fundraising event on Sunday, and just to see the hundreds of people that pour out for that, and get a little more scared than probably some should, including myself.
It's all right, you got defibrillators.
Yeah, exactly. But other than that, I don't have anything to add to the report. So, any questions you have?
How are you doing on equipment in terms of ambulance replacement schedules, kind of all that stuff? And where are you on your general satisfaction with all that?
Good. So our current ambulances are 6 years old. We're hoping to get 8 to 10 years out of them. They're in fairly decent shape. So we start the process probably beginning of next year, lining up funding for those vehicles. Unfortunately, one of the sort of remnants of the pandemic is supply chain issues exist with vehicle replacement. So they're about 16 to 24 months out from the time of order to the time of delivery. So we just have to factor that in when we move towards replacing the ambulances. Otherwise, for durable and disposable equipment, we're in good shape.
Okay. Adult and student volunteer numbers all in good shape as well? Seems like.
Could always use more adult volunteers,
Okay.
but very encouraged. We have our emergency medical technician class started in September with 5 adults. That's the most we've ever had in one class. So, and they all commit to volunteering once they get out. So I think we're in decent shape, but I'll always take more.
Okay.
And members need to live in Darien in order to participate? Or no?
Adult advisors, no.
No, okay.
No, we have several who live in either Stanford or Norwalk,
Okay.
who come as volunteers.
Any messages for the public in terms of what you'd like them to do, think about, keep in mind?
We have our annual appeal coming up towards the end of this year, so that's...
I think I've already got that in the mail, so you were the first guy, or at least the letter I got was the first one.
Please keep us in mind when you're giving. And we have really tried to increase our community training. We're doing quarterly CPR classes, stop the bleed classes. We do our overdose awareness and free Narcan giveaways. So, keep an eye out. We post those on our website. The town has been gracious to put it on their social media feeds as well. So when those come up, please come and attend.
Terrific. Okay, Joe, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay, land use, Mr. Ginsburg.
Morning. One item I wanted to bring to your attention is on page 1 of the report. State requires that every 10 years, the town adopt a plan of conservation and development. It usually takes about 2 years to work on, so we are getting started. Planning and Zoning Commission has interviewed 3 firms, and they will be making a decision on who to bring on board sometime in the next couple weeks. Each of the 3 firms has emphasized the need for strong community outreach, not only to the general public, to department heads, to various boards and commissions, to get a full feel of the community. So it's not just the people that come to the meetings, it would be getting input and feedback from many, many people. So once we get a consultant on board, we believe that the community outreach will start probably right after the first of the year, get that project well underway with the hope of completing the plan in 2026.
And will they handle and choreograph the collection of public input? Is the consulting firm going to do that?
Right. Each consulting firm has talked about the various ways. Some will be maybe in-person events. Some might be online surveys, similar to what's been done for Great Island. So they all came with different perspectives. Of course, the ultimate result will be the Planning and Zoning Commission, what they want in terms of working with the specific consultant, in terms of input, feedback. I know for the plan we did about 8 years ago, we had the consultant actually come into this building and sit down and invite people from boards and commissions, public officials, et cetera. And each time it varies, but we are excited to get the project started and looking forward to a good response from folks coming to meetings and different events where they're taking input and feedback.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'm sorry. You were done. A couple of things. One on EPC. We discussed last night the Weed Beach project, which I know is Parks and Rec, but one of the things I'd like to do is at some point get the Weed Beach project that we have down there back on the EPC agenda, and I talked to Eric about that, but they'll pick that up at some point. You'd had their work here mentioned. I just want to make sure you were aware about all that. I noticed you've got the July to September zoning permits reviewed, which shows a pretty significant downward trend just since 2020. Again, these are sets of third quarter, calendar year third quarter data. Comments on those trends?
You know, we talked a little bit about it. It's the traditional mix of different types of permits. Some are simple, routine bathroom, kitchen renovations, all the way up to, of course, the big projects that are going on currently, both in Roden Heights and downtown. As you saw from the building department report and heard from Bobby, there's a lot of work going on at BMW, as I said, downtown. So I think it was just permits are down generally, not usually that far down, but so far this quarter, I'll say average, nothing crazy. So we'll continue to monitor that.
Okay, terrific. Now, what's the BMW phase? When is that work scheduled to be completed? Do you know?
What year? Early, I would say early next year, Bob. BMW phase, I'll call it phase 3. They've basically been redoing each of the buildings. So they built a new car wash building.
Right.
And a car, they've been redoing all of the buildings. But I think they're spring of next year, you think that's pretty accurate?
Yeah.
A few more months of work left, but they've been putting millions and millions of dollars into new facilities over there. They're really built out on that property. There's nowhere for them to go. So they've been adding some repair bays. So now I think they're up to more than 30 repair bays on site.
Okay. And what's the status on the proposed car wash where Bertucci's was? Where is that?
That was approved by the Planning and Zoning Commission within the past couple weeks. They've applied for the demolition permit to take down Bertucci's, which we expect to be done over the next couple months. And then after speaking to the, I'll call it the developer, the builder, they expect to take a little over a year. So if they get started, weather permitting in January, February, that'll be done in early 2026, ready to go.
Okay, but they're ready to go.
They're ready to go
projects. Okay.
and have all the necessary approvals. They'll just need to apply start with the demolition permit, followed by the building permit.
And they're going to do that without a stoplight there at.
That's correct.
Okay, all right. Okay. That was all I had. Do you have any questions? Jeremy, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Parks and Rec, Jen. Or Jim, sorry, Jim's out today.
Good morning.
Good morning,
Yeah,
sir.
pinch hitting for Jen today.
Good deal.
Just a couple things to note from the report that she submitted to you folks. Our playground at Cherry Lawn opened on August 13th to a lot of traffic and a lot
It
of...
looks like the entire town is there,
It
except for
is.
the people here.
It
Everyone
is.
in Darien is at the Cherry Inn.
It's been great. People, the reviews of it have been very positive, and I think it's getting a lot of use and a lot of good opportunities for kids in town. So that's been positive. Our Baker Park Playground will start construction in the spring. So we'll have a new playground now in McGuan last year, new playground at Cherry Lawn this year, and a new playground at Baker Park next year.
And Baker's not to the degree that we're seeing it.
No.
It's not, right, is it the same vendor, same company?
It's a different
Just-
vendor. It's a different vendor.
Okay.
So yeah, there was a building committee for that
Okay.
playground, and they decided to go with a different vendor. But I think it's going to be a good product as well. So that should start in the spring. The construction should be ready, I would think, by the end of the spring, early summer. The other thing I just wanted to touch on is our programming numbers. We're seeing them increase year after year after year, season after season. Since COVID, we've just seen our programs explode. And what Bobby mentioned, there's a lot of apartments being built in town, and I think that trend's going to continue over the next several years. So we have, not for this past quarter, but for the current quarter, I have kind of teamed up with a couple organizations in town, Kings Highway Tennis, so we're offering indoor tennis lessons to residents, and up at Oxbridge Riding and Racket Club, we're going to be offering youth squash lessons with them, which we filled up many of our classes that we just advertised. So we're trying to work with some local businesses and organizations to promote programs and promote our programs as well. So I think those are the things I wanted to touch on. If you have any questions, happy to answer.
Yeah, a couple things. For Cherry Lawn, definitely include the traffic study in your budget this year.
Yeah.
So, I mean, as everybody knows, there's just that one entrance there. I think we need to create a loop that's got an exit on the other side, sort of north of the entrance as it is now. And there's a lot we need to think about in terms of parking and just better traffic management there, not just for the new playground, but if we increase pickleball capacity, and frankly, the nature center also needs to be repaved over there. And we can't really get all that done unless we've got a study that tells us how to think about all that, so we get the whole thing done at the same time. So let's definitely get that back in. The other thing, it says on the second point here, Weston and Sampson finalizing a plan for the portion along Nearwater Lane for planting this fall. What's the status about that? Because there were a couple things I remember discussing. One was just the landscaping that's down near water, sort of near water on the border where this undeveloped short lane property is. And then there was some remediation planting, if you will, to make up for the trees that had been taken out, I guess, last December or something like that. So for both those sets of plantings, what's the status on all that?
I think we're just about to get finalized plans back, and
Okay.
then we would be trying to determine what the scope of that's going to be.
Okay, when do you expect that?
I would say in the next couple of weeks that we would have all that information.
Okay. And these plans have been coordinated with input from those neighbors that are right on Nearwater and the Norton Bay Association, is that right?
I believe so, yes.
Okay. As soon as those plans come in, I'd like to get copied on that, and I'd like to sit down to kind of go through that.
Absolutely. Yep.
Okay. All right, terrific.
Just a question about programming. Is the majority of the program that you're finding is filling up and really popular, is it mostly athletics, sports?
It's
related?
both. I
It's both.
mean, our tennis lessons are filling up. We offer piano classes that fill up.
They fill up
guitar
too, okay.
lessons, some
Okay.
cooking classes sometimes fill
Okay.
up. So it's really across the board. It's even kids and adult programming.
Okay. One of the things we talked about in our mental health task force meeting was trying to create more programs or look at programs around town that help promote healthy mental health.
Okay.
So things along the lines of, self-care and healthy eating and good sleeping patterns, that kind of thing for students and certainly adults to get a better handle on, mental health condition,
Okay.
mental health healing, and so as you
Okay.
look at a lens and start to maybe take a look at some of those
Absolutely,
ideas.
absolutely, yep.
Okay. And then just on facilities maintenance, first dot point, we continue to have a number of dead, diseased, or damaged trees requiring removal. What's your process for identifying and dealing with all those?
So, many times our own maintenance personnel will see that. What they'll typically do is they'll either contact the tree warden. If he's not available, we have a company that we work with. They'll come out, inspect the tree. A lot of times it will be residents whose properties border parks. They will contact us. Our maintenance foreman will go out and look at the situation. If needed, we would talk to the tree warden to see if that's something that we would, that is necessary to take down. But we would always consult with an expert on that.
Okay. And then the next point here, so I've been by both Tilly and the Cherry Lawn Park ponds. They look a lot better.
Mm-hmm.
Are you satisfied with all that progress, and are you building, or are you kind of reintroducing the maintenance that we had before, so we don't have to deal with those overgrowths like we did over this past summer?
I think you're going to see that in the budget request, that there's going to be
Approved.
Yeah, I mean, it caused a lot of issues, not only the aesthetics, it was.
There's a smell, right?
Yeah, it was the smell.
Yeah,
The fire
it's
department was getting calls, which I think the treatment of both ponds has helped considerably. So we will definitely plan on doing that going forward.
Okay, terrific. Let's see.
When do you guys start doing hiring for summer jobs like lifeguards and?
Typically in January or
Okay.
February, yeah. So we'll start taking applications right after the new year. So
Okay, I think that's all I had.
okay.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, Police Department. Lieutenant?
Morning.
Good morning, how are you?
Good. My name is Derek Mulcahy. I'm filling in for the chief who's not able to be here today. A couple topics he asked me to go over. Let's see. So in the last quarter, we have had an increase in motor vehicle accidents. Over the past year, they've steadily gone up quarter after quarter. About a year ago, we're at 85, now we're at 137 for the quarter. We don't really have a reason for it, maybe an increase of traffic, but there's no real rhyme or reason in locations or offenses being committed. It's just a general overall increase. So,
How about residents versus non-residents? Are these people transiting through town, or are they residents involved in these accidents?
I would say we have a pretty even blend. Just the general. We have a lot of residents that get in accidents within town and outside people as well. I wouldn't say it's weighted one or the other.
Okay.
That's increasing, and it's interesting enough. We had a big increase in our motor vehicle enforcement this last quarter. We had received a $50,000 grant from the DOT to do an aggressive driving campaign and slow people down. So our traffic stops had gone from 677 last quarter to 1,048. So we had a lot of people out there stopping cars. So it's interesting that we had such an increase in our productivity, yet we still saw more motor vehicle accidents. So that's unfortunate, but.
So on that point, I mean, I had kind of wondered in talking to the chief and Captain Mastriani about that, was whether it would be valuable to kind of resurrect that for the coming year for some period of time, because I know the $50,000 went to cover the overtime associated with that enforcement. And I'd be okay with that. It'd be interesting though, did you have any learnings from that period? So other than the enforcement, did anything change? Did you see behavioral change? Did you see anything kind of spike back up? I guess a shorter way of asking, what did you see the benefit of that process, and would you think about wanting to do that again?
Yes, I think we would like to do it again. If any grant is available, we're going to apply for it. I've always found that the impact of motor vehicle enforcement is short-lived. People's driving behavior, we can slow it down temporarily. If you get a ticket, or you drive by an officer, it's a reminder, let me slow down, let me drive more safely. As a little bit of time goes on, a few days go by, people go back to their natural driving habits, right? Mm-hmm. So I do think that our impact is often short-lived, unfortunately. I think we can make some impact over time if you routinely see an officer on Oxford Road, you're going, okay, let me slow down on Oxford Road. So I hope there is some benefit to it, but I do think people always kind of regress back to their poor driving habits, if they have poor driving habits. But certain people have a tendency to drive certain ways.
And just to confirm on the motor vehicle accident trend, there's no aspect of that trend, location, residency, types of vehicle, like commercial or private, or any of that, where there was a spike or trend change where you could point to that and say, well, that was more of a causal factor?
No, the last quarter I had looked into it deeply, and I had found that Norotan Avenue had more accidents than any other street in town. It had kind of a high number. So we actually did a lot of enforcement on Norotan Avenue, and that's come back down. There's a lot of intersections on Norotan Avenue. There's a lot of traffic lights that are close to each other between Hecker Avenue and West Avenue. There's a lot going on in there. There's lane changes. But that's come back down a little bit this quarter. This time there wasn't any one street that jumped out or any one intersection. It really is a blend. If I showed you a map pinpointing all the accidents, they're really scattered all over the place. Of course, you're going to have a lot on Post Road, Norotan, things like that. But there's no one real problem spot that we're seeing.
And on Norotan Avenue, they changed a lot of the lane markings in that section, sort of between the Shell station and then down to, I guess, Maple.
Correct.
Kind of Hecker there. Was there an increase in accidents in that area because of those changes? Or
I don't know
was
if it's
it just
attributed to
spread
those changes. I think those changes have helped with the traffic flow a little bit because it keeps things moving a little better. But at the end of the day, it's a lot of intersections close to each other, and people are changing lanes, and they do run into each other. But I don't know if that's a contributing factor to it.
Okay.
I think things are flowing better with that,
Okay.
for sure.
All right. What else?
As you know, we deal with a lot of stolen vehicles. The motor vehicle thefts are on the rise. We had quite a few last quarter. We went from 9 the previous quarter to 23. However, people stealing from cars went from 25 to 12. It cut in half. So more people are leaving their keys in their cars, or more cars are being entered and stolen. So when these people go into cars, they hop in, they press the start button. If the fob is on it, if the fob is in the vehicle starts, they take it. If the fob is not in there, they look around for valuables, grab what they can, and they leave. So, as you know, we talk about this probably every quarter, that people are stealing cars because they're not locked, and it just continues, unfortunately.
So at the risk of repetition, how many of these cars that have been stolen were unlocked with the keys inside?
All of them.
100%.
All of them, yeah.
Yeah.
People
So
don't
what-
steal cars without keys. And you hear about the Kias and things, but we're not seeing that in our town. Those are all unlocked vehicles with keys in them.
So, in your opinion, what message does that send to the community that comes to our town to steal these cars?
The people that are not
This
locking
is a
their
setup
cars.
question, by the way, just to be clear. I'm setting you up for the answer that I know you're going to give me.
Go for it.
The people that aren't locking their cars, and they're just continuing to invite these criminals into this town, and they're endangering their neighbors, and they're endangering us and anyone that visits this town. I could pull up body cam videos and show you, or dash cam videos of our officers trying to stop them. They intentionally driving head-on at our officers and swerving at the last second, playing chicken with them. They are driving in a manner that would absolutely appall you if you saw it. And this is happening now at 8:30 in the morning. It's happening 4 o'clock in the afternoon, 6 o'clock in the afternoon, when all you guys are out driving around. Previously, it was all overnight, but now we're seeing a lot more daytime stuff. These people don't care.
And by the way,
So-
it's not just at residences, it's businesses, country clubs, they're jacking cars at these
Correct.
places as well.
Correct, because every time they come here, they get a nice car. They're stealing Porsches, they're stealing Audis, they're stealing really, really nice things. And they joyride them, and they dump them, and they come back the next night.
Other than reminders like this sort of stage discussion we're having right now, is there anything further that the department has considered to help people get into the habit of locking their cars, or that you've seen other towns or even municipalities pursue that has been helpful?
We are open to suggestions. We've had big think tanks. I think even at the chief level, they're having meetings. How do we combat this? What do we do to get people to lock their cars? And we haven't come up with any great way of doing it. It comes down to people taking these little preventative steps and locking their cars. It seems like such a simple task, and we just can't get people to do it. And we've had multiple people. We've had a family in town that's had their car stolen 3 times, and they continue to leave it unlocked.
Okay.
And we're very limited in what we can do in stopping these and enforcing these laws. So it's difficult for us, and it ties up a lot of our time, unfortunately.
Okay.
It is a real inconvenience. You would think at some point legislation would start to get more aggressive with the manufacturers of these cars, that the cars would not be able to be left with a key in it, right? Like
Right.
eventually it needs to get to a point where somebody needs to step in and say, at a manufacturing level, you know, you get out of a car and the car is buzzing if the key is still in there, or just those
Right.
constant reminders, right? Almost
Sure.
like the child in the back seat.
Sure.
That same sort of concept. It's almost like
It's
there's an
funny, though.
advocacy for that.
You know, it's funny your point about technology. So my car, I'll take the keys out. If I just walk away from the car locks.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Right, so I can't get away from my car unless the
Right.
car locks.
But you take the keys with you.
But I take the keys with me. So. Well, to your point though, I've gotten in the habit now to where if I don't hear that beep,
Yeah.
something's wrong. So the odd thing is that getting into the habit of just hearing that, I will admit, every time I get out of the car, I'm like, beep, okay, we're good.
My car, if you get out and the key is still in it, the car is beeping as you're walking away from it.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's telling you even outside of the car that there is a key in the car.
Yeah, maybe one message to the public is take a minute out of your day to look at the owner's manual in your car, particularly if it's a new one, or to your point, these high-end cars.
Right.
It's likely that there's a feature that you can turn on that might help you remember to pay attention to whether your car's locked or not.
Right.
So it certainly works for me.
Right. We have many, many videos of people walking up people's driveways, pulling the handles on their car, car's locked, and they leave. And they're fine, nothing happens. So as long as your car's locked, you're generally pretty good. We occasionally see cars broken into, smashed windows, the YMCA, those are few and far between. But the stuff we're dealing with on an almost daily basis is unlocked vehicles being stolen.
Okay. Okay, please, anything else?
Sure. Yeah, a couple things. Larcenies are up just slightly. We continue to see distraction larcenies in some of our grocery stores, Whole Foods and Trader Joe's specifically. 2 or 3 people will come in. Someone may ask a lady for help reaching something or a question, while the other person takes something out of her purse that's now unattended in the shopping cart. Continues pretty regular. I think Trader Joe's is safe because historically they haven't had cameras. Our Trader Joe's has installed security cameras within the last couple months or year, so that's helping us. But these are organized groups that are coming from out of state, so that's a continuous thing for us. We had 28 custodial arrests the last quarter from our patrol division, and our detective bureau puts in a lot of work solving these crimes that happen after the fact, the car thefts, the burglaries, the larcenies. And going back to those larcenies, a lot of those are reported after the fact. Some of these stores have policies. They can't intervene with people if they call us later. So instead of patrol handling it right then and there, our patrol division has to take on, detective division has to take on that case and work it after the fact. We're in the process of hiring quite a few people over the PD. We're looking for 3 patrol officers, an animal control officer, 3 dispatchers. We just hired 3 traffic agents, and if approved, we're looking at a facilities coordinator.
Yep.
And lastly, we have ongoing community outreach programs. We have Coffee with a Cop, Citizens Police Academy, Women's Self-Defense Class, the OK to Delay program, which addresses early concerns about childhood, cell phone and social media use, and assistance with webinar with Thriving Youth Task Force regarding marijuana use and teen mental health.
Okay, that's good. Has the department done anything such as increasing random police presence in retail locations, just as a signal that the police are around and just walking through stores, say walking up a block? I just wonder whether a more visible police presence in establishments like that, just so that people never know when those guys are going to show up.
We have increased presence, I would say, in the parking lots. We don't
Okay.
have officers walking through the grocery stores. I think that's something we could speak to our detective bureau about, maybe having plainclothes guys walk through occasionally. They do it at times. Last year, one of our detectives was doing just that at Trader Joe's and grabbed 2 guys in the middle of a larceny, chased them out into the parking lot. And we had found 6 cell phones that were stolen that day, like 4 purses. It was nice to actually grab them. So we do it
Okay.
sometimes. Sure, we could always do it more, but I know our detective bureau's been down a little bit, as our whole department has staffing wise. But yeah, it's a needle in a haystack, but it can work out sometimes, as we've seen.
I appreciate that. Okay. Any other questions from you?
Just curious on e-bikes and
Yes.
juveniles in town. That is a major issue. I see it all the time. I'm hearing families and parents and drivers always interacting and getting very nervous.
Yeah.
So is there a plan to, first of all, what are the laws with e-bikes?
Good question. So this is
Yeah.
an emerging thing, and we're trying to catch up with these kids, and I think the laws are trying to catch up with
Yeah.
all these new products that are coming out. So we've had a training bulletin that came out, and I guess there's 3 different classes of e-bikes that do different speeds. And from
Okay.
what I learned, these kids know that they have, if they can stay within a level 2 and not a level 3, then legally they can operate it
It's
on the
just like a
roads.
regular bike, there's no,
Just-
or treat it as a
Right,
regular bike.
right.
yeah.
But, and I'm not on the road too much, unfortunately, so I don't observe it, I'm inside. But in the few times I do get out, I see them, you know, multiples driving down the middle of the road, in the middle of the lane, and it's dangerous. I know there's been some accidents in other towns with these kids, and I think it's inevitable. And I'm really fearful that when that day comes, it's definitely a problem. I think our officers are addressing it. I see, you know, I go through the work, I see the calls in our blotter, officers stopping them and talking to them about the rules and what they need to do, or they need a helmet, or they can't be in the roadway. So I think when our officers do see it, they are being proactive about it and speaking with the kids. I know we're trying to kind of get to the source. Our SROs, the school resource officers, have been talking to the kids at the schools because they bring them to and from school, and they're trying to get ahead of it there. So we're hoping it quiet. I think we're going to have our hands full with that, though.
Are there ever violations given to kids that are, I mean, obviously not,
Yeah, I'm not aware of any infractions that have been given out for it. I think one of the problems we run into is that these are juveniles, so we can't just write them a ticket.
right, but they are associated with a parent who you could. So to me, it's
Correct.
almost like you've got to hand that responsibility back to the parent.
Yeah. The state of Connecticut makes it very difficult to do things with juveniles. You're right, I guess we could hand it out to the parent in that case. But I think the proper course of action would be to do a juvenile referral, which is actually like an arrest for a child, and that brings on a whole host of problems for that kid. But it's definitely something we're trying to grow with and get ahead of and learn, because it's
Part of the reason
problematic.
car thefts are a problem, because they're kids.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I wouldn't
Correct.
imagine that we need to give citations out or,
I
but
think
do we contact a parent? If you have a child who's completely breaking the law and driving all over the place and
Yes.
causing havoc,
Yes.
do you say, okay, we got to take you back to your house, and you got to have a conversation with mom and dad?
that's generally how we would handle something like a
Okay.
youth as opposed to a ticket. Yeah,
Thank you.
having that conversation.
Thanks.
Any other questions?
Mhm.
Thank you, Lieutenant,
Thank you.
we appreciate it. Okay. Mr. Gentile, Public Works.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So, pick the top 5 winners for this quarter in front of you. Just quickly going over what we're highlighting this quarter. Gorham's Pond Dam, we are kicking off a pre-con meeting tomorrow. Construction will start soon after. The contract are online, contracts are in place, so this is going to take off pretty quick. It will be a long process because we have to set up dewatering around the facility so that we can actually work year-round down there.
How long would that project take? It's,
Hopeful about 6 to 7 months, and he can possibly work through the winter. I think that's what they're going to try to do.
Okay.
We have to have it completed by October of next year to still be in the running to obtain FEMA funding for this.
Is there any impact to traffic on that happens?
No, it'll be down at the dam. There'll be some setting up of the sheet piling at first, but we'll take one lane and we'll get people across the bridge, but we're not going to shut the road down entirely.
Yeah, and when do the gates, are the gates closed back up yet, or what?
I believe they have them open right now.
Yeah, they are open, but they're,
We're looking to start the Rings End Road bridge repair, which is part and parcel to the dam.
Okay.
2 different contractors coming in, but we need the water level down so that we
okay, so those
continue
gates need
working.
to be, I got it, okay.
Hanson Road Bridge, roadway was closed. We will start taking out the bridge this week. Construction is going to start. We had to relocate some fish.
Fish.
Yes, fish. So that was done. So we're looking at taking on that project now. The demo will start soon. Water main will be the first thing that they do, and then the concrete work will start. They're going to work through the winter to do this.
Is there a massive impact on traffic with that road?
Well, they took away my cut through.
Mine too.
So, yes, massive, huge, completely
Mine
unacceptable.
And I heard last
Every
night.
day I go,
And I heard last night Jack Davis cuts through there too, so I have to watch my budget this year. So
Wait, the Public Works budget's at 0, what happened? Well,
yeah, I think people have grown accustomed. I hear I still have one jogger that
Coming
believes,
through, okay.
that believes the road is still open.
Okay,
We're gonna cure that soon.
okay. Are there people cut through the high school? That was another concern that I was having. You're not hearing that?
I haven't heard that
Okay.
yet, but I haven't seen it either. I go that way in the morning. It seems that people are actually going down to Middlesex. It's an easier get around than trying to go through the school.
Okay.
Sanitary sewer I&I program, we're on phase 3 right now, or I'm sorry, phase 2 right now. We're just about ready to wrap it up. Phase 3 is right behind it. We're doing the design now, hopefully get started December, January. We have invested almost $2.1 million so far. We're topping out about $4 million to complete this phase and the beginning of the next portion of town, actually.
Yeah.
So
Has that been helpful? I mean, have you reduced this or identified sources of I&I into the system?
it has. We found a lot of areas where pipes needed some point repairs. We did reduce, according to some of our consultants that have been required to do studies for some of the larger projects coming through the Stony Brook pump station. They've done some analysis that shows wet weather flows are actually down for us. Not significantly yet, but showing that it is starting to drop. I thought that was good news. And I think we're seeing some movement in our sewer commission to address our sump pump issue here in town. And we'll be coming to the first selectman to kind of give him an update on that in the next month or so.
Okay, a big source of I&I. I mean,
That's a huge source of I&I.
Okay.
Our fourth topic here is the Norton Heights train station sidewalk. We've completed that project in September.
I've had nothing but praise for that project. It's such an improvement when you're trying to walk down there to have sidewalks that go all the way from Mountain Avenue, all the way down to the train platform. It's terrific.
Very well supported by the DOT.
Yep.
They made the permitting very, very easy. They thought it was a great idea too. It turned out to be a good project.
Yep.
The next topic is now paving those 2 parking lots. That may happen, a portion of it may happen in the next couple of weeks.
Oh, great. Okay.
And finally, our paving program. Again, a little over 1.6 million. We've got about almost 5 miles of roadway done. We saw a trend where the asphalt prices now have pretty much steadied and leveled for over a year now, which is just unheard of for us. So we're trying to get as much paving done before the plants close this December, because I'm afraid come April they're going to start to go back up again, or maybe after the election. That's what I'm hearing. So got to be cognizant of that.
Great.
So any other questions you may have?
A couple of things just to kind of check on. One is key issues for solid waste, just on page 4, the food scrap recycling program. So last night we reauthorized the Sustainability Committee, and as one of their charges, they're very interested in sort of promoting composting and food scrap recycling, mainly for the schools, just because there's a lot of food waste from there. But what I may do is have them contact your office, just so that as they get started to try to move that or advance that particular agenda, that they can be in touch with you about that. So
That's something I worked closely with when they instituted, and more than happy to continue to work with
they'd
them.
love to spend some time on more time on all that. What's the status of all the work at the Darien Railroad Station in terms of that's doing DOT? How is that going? When you hesitate, Ed, we know what the answer is. The answer is not fantastic.
Kind of want to give you an answer, but I'd be respectful of the people doing the work over there, but it looks like they're a little behind.
Okay.
And I don't want to say it's the contractor's fault or the DOT's fault. I just think with the moving parts over there of an active train station, they have been rotating their schedules on sides of tracks. And when you start doing that, you require to move setups. And when you move setups, that takes time.
Yeah.
So that haul has kind of slowed it down a little bit. They're actively doing one of the parking lots now. We've been trading parking spaces over there because they've been doing staging so they can continue to move on. So I think they're a little bit behind. I think their projected finish date of 2025, May-ish, was aggressive to begin with. I think it's going to be closer to September or maybe October.
Okay. You guys coordinated with WestCog for this ADA study in our town buildings, I think mainly this building, maybe others as well. Can you comment on just how that process went? Or my understanding is it's finished or nearly finished, we're waiting on a report, or kind of where's all that
I think the site visits have been the majority of them, if there's not any comeback, that they've
I
been
think they're
completed.
done, right?
They have come.
Yeah.
They've done the report. We met with them, I think it was last week, did a teleconference with them to give us kind of a flavor of what they're going to give us back as part of the reporting. Very, very in-depth, very detailed.
Yep.
And I think it's going to be important that we take a look at that and see if there's anything major, if we can get it soon enough, anything major that we can put into the budget for this year for any type of capital work that needs to be done.
Yeah, pretty important to have a study like this in place in case there's an issue with all that, but it gives us a roadmap going forward, so I think that's great.
And I think that's what the state's looking for. They want to make sure that you do have a plan and that you start to implement it.
Yeah. I noticed in page 3 of your report, so this is on the C-Click Fix software. It looks like it has compared favorably with other, I guess, other towns who have sort of similar software. Are you satisfied with that as a vehicle for reporting stuff that needs to be brought to your attention versus, say, you getting a call or email? Is there anything we need to do to publicize or advance that as a way for citizens to ask questions?
I think the residents are getting better at it.
Okay.
I think there was a learning process for both areas, the folks that are using here at Town Hall and the folks that, the residents that are putting in the complaints. I think that's getting better. There are some nuances that we'd like to see the company make to it. Simple as putting an attachment to a complaint, whether it be a photograph or an email. Those are things that we used to be able to do that were very helpful. Those things would be something we look forward to maybe in the future.
Okay. And then the only other thing is the Board of Selectmen has requested that we do just a flooding project update for the board at some point to just, by the way, here's kind of where we started, and here's the status of the 2 projects that we're invested in, and just give them a sense of kind of where things stand. I did mention to them that I'm working on my next video, which pertains to flooding, as you and I have discussed, and if I could get that filmed this week or at the latest next week, I think that'll answer a lot of the questions, so maybe that will obviate the need for a formal update, but I'll try to get that work done and share it with you so we can get that finished.
I did hear the word drought before.
Yeah, so
I'm all for drought.
yeah, there are few things help mitigate flooding like drought. So, and the only other thing for me is, as you and I have talked about this pedestrian infrastructure assessment committee that had been put in place and did their report in 2015, there is a lot of public interest that's cropped up with regard to sidewalks, particularly access to Oxford Elementary School. And so trying to resurrect that committee with a few important changes, I think, from how it was structured before, so that could be a useful tool to just take a fresh look with citizen involvement at our overall sidewalk strategy. I think could be a good idea. We talked about it last night at the Board of Selectmen meeting, but importantly, we'll need some outside coordination for something like that. And as we discussed, I think a professional needs to work alongside that group to sort of keep things in a lane in terms of feasibility and a few other, I think, important criteria. So
I agree. I was here when they did the original, and I saw how the group was put together. A lot of volunteers that wanted to participate. A lot of good people spent a lot of good time of their own time putting this all together. I also saw how the Board of Selectmen put together the group for Great Island, also looking for certain people with certain qualifications to have, put forth some of their expertise too, because I think that needs to be put together this time, so that we can dive a little deeper into what needs to be done here in town and what should and should not be done.
yeah, so we're going to pre-design that committee so that it has that expertise, kind of outside help, so that the work product that we get is satisfying in that sense. I think that's a good thought. Marcy, questions for?
No, thanks, sir.
Thank you
Mr.
very much.
Gentile? Thank you. Okay, last but absolutely not least, our town clerk.
Good morning.
Good morning, Krista. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. I thought I'd start with the RTM, which was meeting last night, when you all were meeting also, to confirm that the 2 positions were approved. That was the first resolution they voted upon. It was not unanimous. There were 3 dissenting votes, just for records, but
So
it
this
did
is
pass.
for the public
The
works
two
health and
facilities
the police
positions,
department.
correct.
Terrific.
So that is
Okay.
good to go. The van also passed, that was unanimous. And the Ox Ridge, there seems to be a procedural issue that has arisen this morning. It did pass unanimously, but because of procedural issues, and Wayne is opining on that. So the
I'm sorry,
Ox
what-
Ridge,
Go ahead, what was the problem?
the way the motion was moved and seconded, or lack thereof, is a concern. Wayne is aware, as is Seth, so we're looking for an update. It was voted upon properly, it was unanimous, but just an asterisk to the Oxbridge custody and control.
Okay.
Okay, and was that because, so was that the resolution in the RTM, or was that at the Board of Selectmen when we
No,
passed
no,
it?
the resolution at the
The
RTM.
RTM,
This is all RTM, the 3 resolutions on which they voted.
So they're thinking that the resolution was written incorrectly?
No,
or
just the procedure in which it was moved and brought forth to the body.
To RTM or to
RTM,
Board of
all
Selectmen?
RTM, this
Okay.
is all RTM. Okay.
So this is, the handover of the school is really kind of an administrative point. It doesn't really actually change the reality of this, so even if there is an issue and this has to be revoted, then there's not a
Yes.
problem, is there? Is that?
I don't believe there is. I think
Okay.
no, it just really, at this point, as I understand it, is
Procedural.
really handing over the finances, any issues to the Board of Education, for which they'll be responsible, and no longer the building committee. So I think that's
So Marcy
really.
doesn't have to be interim principal or
Yeah,
anything
that's
like
what
that?
No, all is good. The
Okay.
school's wonderful. Everything was positive. Again, a unanimous vote. There was no discussion whatsoever, just an asterisk, and I will update you later today when I hear back from Wayne on that matter. Still on the RTM, there's, no one stepped up for the Blight Commission. I know
So.
that body struggles to
Yes.
have quorum. The term, the gentleman from the RTM, as you know, there are 5 representatives from the respective bodies. The one member has resigned from the RTM. They are trying to fill it with the same party that is on advice of council, that it needs to be replaced with the vacancy of the same party as the gentleman who left. So that's where we're sticking with that same party, unable to. His term ends the end of this year. So we have 3 people at least who have expressed interest beginning in January. So this is not a long-term problem, it's a short-term.
Yeah, so the problem with the Blight Committee is that, or Commission, is that the membership comes from other committees and commissions, right?
Correct.
So one of them has to be from the RTM, one has to be from the Commission on Aging, one has to be from Human Services, which is not met in a year for lack of a
Right.
quorum itself. And so one of the things I'm going to be coming to the RTM with at some point in the future are a few charter revisions, and it'll be along the lines of stuff like that, as well as a few other things that just make it hard to fill, say, an important commission like the Blight Commission, because we're restricted in terms of where the membership can come from. Now, obviously, part of a broader discussion, but it's a few things like that that I think we should adjust that's needlessly hamstringing us. So RTM, more to come on that.
Okay, no, I completely agree. The other issue that I've noticed with the way that body was constituted is because it still has to have majority-minority representation. And the Board of Selectmen would then be faced with a problem if these 5 respective bodies put forth individuals, all of the same party. It would then be up to you to decide who doesn't get to prove the person was put forth by that respective body.
Which is
Another
why I'm going
nuance
to
issue.
recommend some changes. So we
Yes,
don't have
okay, that was just one that I had noticed too.
We will
So
fix
that was update from the RTM. And listening to some of the comments here, I just thought I hadn't put in my report, but I will add, fraud alert. You heard Jen mention in finance. There's also a similar system that is offered for land records. So I had kind of thought about it. It's free, so this is a system that would be a paid-for service on top of our land record system, where residents could subscribe for no charge to be alerted when a land record was filed under their name.
So if we had, so the headline kind of example of all that is you own a house and someone fraudulently files a lien on your house or takes title to your house. Has that been a problem in this town? Has there been any incidents of that?
I have not seen a single incident in the time I've been here. Granted,
There was a huge incident
there was
in
a,
Fairfield.
that being said, there was a
Yeah.
huge issue in Fairfield where property was sold, a home was built,
without the homeowner knowing it.
Yeah.
So we've had nothing, and hence my hesitancy in moving forward with taxpayer dollars to subscribe to this service.
That said,
That said,
what's the cost of the service?
the cost is, it's nominal, $725 to set up, and then a $600 yearly maintenance.
Did we ever find out how that happened? Has there been an investigation on how that happened in Fairfield? I mean, who was responsible for that? Or-
It had to do with the attorney. I haven't, delved into it deeply, but the attorney, so basically the homeowner lived in Long Island, he had a vacant plot of land. Party filed the sale of the land to the developer, and I think it was the attorneys who
Okay.
were in with the developer.
Got it.
What's the ultimate recourse of that landowner, right? Does title insurance help them in that regard?
Title insurance should absolutely help in that.
Pay them, pay them.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm not an attorney, I'm not a land attorney, but yes, title insurance should help. And just for the public's notice, in the event, we decide until we move, or if we move forward with this service, the ability to look at our land records, they are online. It is free for anybody to proactively go in and look up your name on your land records.
Not high on the list of daily activities.
Not high on the list, but I just want to make sure everyone knows it is there.
Okay.
Until and if we subscribe to an alert system, you still have the functionality to go in and search at any time, 24/7. So that is that. The office is knee-deep in elections. I mean, that is what we are doing. We're up to our eyeballs in absentee ballots. We have issued 1,304 ballots, and this is a manual process. We've received 515 back. On the federal level, the federal ballot, which I highlighted, again, if you've never even set foot on US soil, but you are a US citizen, you can vote in the presidential election here in Connecticut. We issued 120 of those ballots, and 60 of which have come back.
And those ballots were requested?
Correct.
Okay.
We continue to have issues with the mail service and the absentee ballot process. I've talked a little bit about this in the past.
Jennifer and I are visiting the post office today, I think. Yeah. Yep, we're going today. So we're doing a little field trip over there to see if we can solve that problem. Norton Heights.
To Norotan,
Yeah.
okay. Most of my communication has been with Camp Avenue because they are the ones who have the carriers.
I know the guy at Norton Heights, so we're going to start there.
Okay, perfect, all right. Ballots in the mail continue to be an issue. So we're doing our due diligence, and really, the staff has gone above and beyond contacting voters, trying to reach them any which way to say, your ballot came back, we don't know why. Can you check your address? Can you talk to someone? One anecdote today, or the other day, a young Darien resident, freshman in college, filled out his application, put the address to which he wanted the ballot mailed the ballot, came back. This young man put the address for parcels. At his particular school, you can't send mail to the parcel address. So I was on the phone with the mail service at his university and the state system to try to find out why the mail wasn't delivered to him. Lo and behold, he needed to have a P.O. box and not this parcel address. So these are all the nuances that have come up with mail and absentee ballots, so I just thought I'd share that.
Okay. Any irregularities noted so far beyond that example with absentee ballots?
I have not seen a single instance of anyone whom I thought was, except we do continue to see a voter list where people, when we ask, do you live in Darien? Well, I may come back. So I do have a struggle with
Well,
getting.
are these people on the voter list?
They're registered
Ah.
here,
They're registered here.
but living in Florida.
Oh, they graduated from college 5 years ago and they're living in Manhattan, and
Okay.
they hope to come back.
But the reason this has come up is because they're requesting an
They're
absentee ballot?
correcting, yes,
Okay.
they're requesting ballots. So there is nothing we can do. My office is charged with distributing an absentee ballot within 24 hours of anyone who is a bona fide member, resident on our voting lists. But the problem then is, should they be on the voting list? And that is not my office's responsibility. It's a tough challenge for even the registrars.
Okay. Speaking of elections, how many for the 100, well, we've got 100 RTM seats. How many RTM seats are up for election this year?
There are, well,
I'm just trying to get a sense for how many empty seats do we have no one running for, or do you have it, is it all?
I think there's something in here
well,
from like,
right now, okay, so roughly it's about half. I think this year we have 46 open seats.
Okay,
With the process from those incumbents who are returning to petitioning candidates and now to write-in candidates, we're actually in quite good shape. District 1 is now a contested election based upon the feedback of people, and thanks a lot to Marley with getting the word out that I was spreading, that we now have a contested election in District 1, but openings remain in the other districts. So overall, I'd say we'd have 12 empty seats
okay.
starting November 5th. Because the window is now closed for even write-in candidates. We're done. This is the
so if
ballot.
somebody was interested, they would have to wait until after election and then go in front of,
Correct. After the election, if there are still empty seats, they would meet, and at that point, it's called a caucus, and the vote would be by the members of that specific district.
Okay, terrific. Anything else for you? Just one question I had is that, just watching a lot of meetings lately, I'm wondering if it would be helpful to have a Robert's Rule of Order update for, and FOIA update, not a giant 500-page presentation, but just the list of things that are most common for boards and meetings in town government, to just provide folks with reminders about certain things, answers to common questions. So just making sure that everybody's clear about sort of in-person, hybrid, Zoom-only meetings, what the timing is for example, changing that, right? Reminders of when agendas need to be filed, making sure each group has got sort of a single person responsible for that, or just one that constantly comes up. If I wasn't in the meeting the last time, can I vote on the minutes at that meeting, in the current meeting?
The answer is yes to that.
Yeah, so there's a lot of people who just don't know that. So I think it would be good, not now, but sometime in the next 3 to 6 months, to just take a look at that. I've got a list of 14 questions that I've heard come up that might be helpful with that. Maybe we could collaborate with Wayne and just put out something that I think fits on a laminated card, right? That says, here's your card. This should cover 90% of the issues that typically come up. Maybe that'll minimize the number of interventions you have to have when there's a last minute change or some kind of an issue that way, because you get, it's on the card, you can't do that, or they'll have that card and they'll know not even to ask you because we're past that deadline in a meeting process. But I've got a number of things, maybe we could spend some time.
Absolutely. No, I think that's a great idea. And again, I also offer the services of the FOIA Commission, the Public Information Officer. We could do a Zoom in the auditorium, we could have them come down, but here's
That's
another
a great
resource.
idea. I forgot about
when
that.
is the new RTM sworn in?
November 5th. They
Oh, the day
are
after,
seated,
okay.
they're seated upon election.
And then their first meeting after that?
The
Official
12th.
meeting? The 12th, oh, so it's
The
pretty
12th.
fast. I was gonna say that would be a good first meeting orientation to kind of touch on all that
I
stuff.
don't know if we'll have it quite.
But we won't have it ready by then.
No,
problem.
because that's when they're going to be voting on their district chairs
yeah.
and their rules committee, then rules meets, then they constitute their committees, then you've got state of the town in December. January perhaps is when things
Yeah, I
are
think
settling
that's
down
right.
a little
Yeah.
bit.
Yeah, I think that's right.
So I think that window of time. But again, Russell Blair is the gentleman from FOIA, and he's
All right, that's
always more than happy to come out.
okay. Do you have any questions?
Okay.
Tricia, thank you.
All right, thank you.
All right, that wraps up this discussion today. I'd like to thank everybody again for participating. Quality reports, I think it's much improved from before and hopefully easier to prepare. And I'm hoping that you got something out of these discussions, just to not, even if you weren't participating. I think that's great. I did have one addition for George for IT that maybe next quarter we could talk about. There've been half a dozen times just in the last a month or so that it's come up that there's an AV issue or someone needs help that's audiovisual equipment related for a meeting or something in the auditorium. Jim Cameron and I talked about this the other day. We ought to have a discussion or kind of an agenda item for your report next time, which is what's the nature of the types of requests or issues that come up with AV usage in town hall. So this ranges from the equipment itself to Zoom meetings to kind of all of that, and list out kind of the challenges and then say what would be some options that we could pursue that would resolve that and make it easier for folks to get the assistance that they need if they're trying to have a meeting, particularly given that a lot of our meetings are after work hours. So we can talk about that before next quarter, and then just, I'd like to see us at least just lay out the challenge, and then we can decide some solutions to pursue from that point. So, okay. All right, I think we are done. Thank you all. Have a great day.